Hello, I'm Dr. David Solomon, and I'd like to invite you to come with me and Dr. Grace Godwin. We're teaching a course on the Arthurian legend in history, literature, film, and in pop culture. Of course, we're not going to Thailand. We are going to the United Kingdom. Specifically, we will be spending time in England and spending also some time in Wales, which may be the original site of the Arthurian legend. You can see some of the major spots that we're going to be stopping at on this map. And in this brief video, I'll go over some of the more details of the trip in general. So the Arthurian legend, the legend of King Arthur, really begins in the 5th century with a warrior king who supposedly led a fight against Saxon invaders. In this course, we're going to read some of the more important literature related to King Arthur and also look at Arthurian legend and visit many of the significant sites in Arthurian lore. We're going to read everything from Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, a great poetic work of the 14th century, right up through the contemporary with the really important feminist novel by Marion Zimmer Bradley called The Mists of Avalon, which essentially tells the Arthurian story from the perspective of the female characters and the goddess myth. Along the way, we'll talk about all kinds of things, the sword and the stone. We'll talk about Arthur as a great king, as a great warrior, and also discuss the issue of whether or not Arthur ever really existed. The round table will be a focus. As you'll see in the rest of this video, several of the sites that we're going to are reported to have been the site of the round table, and we'll talk about that myth as well. So we'll start our journey at Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C., where we will travel by British Airways over to England. We'll land at Heathrow Airport. And we will be staying throughout our entire stay at Premier Inns. This is a chain of hotels throughout the United Kingdom, not unlike our Holiday Inn. It's a very nice place. There'll be double rooms with ensuite bathrooms. Our first stop in London, we will spend the first 3 nights of our trip in London, will be to go to Harry Potter World. And we will go there to discuss the influence that the Arthurian legend has had on popular culture. We'll then spend some time looking at many of the Arthurian artifacts and medieval texts, first in the British Library, and then in the British Museum. And side trip from the British Museum, about 2 blocks away, there is this fabulous umbrella store that dates back to 1830, and I plan to get myself an umbrella there this time. You can come with me as well. Of course, we will be going through London. You'll learn how to use the underground. You can even make a phone call in one of the phone boxes which still survive. From there, on day 5, we're going to go off to Winchester. We will travel to Winchester by train, and we will go to Winchester Cathedral, and we will also go to the Great Hall, which is one of the spots where supposedly the Round Table is housed. And we'll talk about this. Winchester, also site of one of the largest Gothic cathedrals in all of Europe. As we travel then on the next night, we will leave by coach to go to Glastonbury, England. We will be spending the next 6 nights looking at things in the Glastonbury region and in the Cornwall district, including a visit to the Glastonbury Tor, which is one of the oldest church sites in England. And we will walk up the mountain and walk around the Tor and talk about its significance. There is Glastonbury Cathedral, where the site of one of the sites supposedly of Arthur's tomb is. Supposedly he was buried there. We also downtown in Glastonbury will go to the Chalice Well. A lot of these mystical and mythological sites in Glastonbury. And great shops, great shopping, great shops. While in Glastonbury, we'll take a bus and go over to Stonehenge and check out the rock formation at Stonehenge and talk about its significance. And wouldn't be right to not take a pause and talk about the good food that we'll have. At the Premier Inns, we have included for you a traditional English breakfast every morning, and all sorts of good food along the way, including pasties, fish and chips, traditional fish and chips, and one of Dr. Godwin's favorite, a Greg's sausage roll. We have Welsh cakes. We have Barrabrith on the right, which is a special Welsh cake, and great Welsh cheese as well. When we're in London, we will go to Borough Market, which is one of the more fantastic places in London, open every day, where you can buy just about everything. All sorts of food items, fresh vegetables, you name it. Really fun place. But back to Cornwall. So from Glastonbury, we're going to travel down to Cornwall, to the Cornwall region, down to the coast, where there are lots of Arthurian sites, and we will spend some good time looking at some of the probably less often traveled to sites in the Cornwall region that are related to King Arthur. Should be quite interesting. We will take a side trip to Port Isaac. If you watch the BBC show Doc Martin, that is where Port Wen is supposed to be, Port Isaac, and a great little town, which now has really been put on the map because of that show. At Tintagel Castle, which is one of the supposed birthplaces of Arthur, right along the Cornish coast. And we will go to the Boscastle Museum of Witchcraft and Magic as well when we are down there in the Cornwall region. We will then travel up and go to Bath and look at the traditional hot springs at Bath. The town of Bath, really an interesting place to look around in addition to the Roman baths themselves. Then we're off over the Severn Bridge, off into Wales, one of my most favorite places on earth. There are more sheep in Wales than people, it is no lie. And we will spend 3 nights in Swansea, which is right on the coast, beautiful city, again, staying in Premier Inns. And from there, we are going to do some exploring in part of Wales. We will take a day trip up to Hay-on-Wye. Hay-on-Wye has been called the town of books. It is essentially a town of bookstores. Really an amazing place, and quite a lot of fun to go up there. And we will travel and spend a day up in Hay-on-Wye. We will travel through Brecon Beacons down back to Swansea, where you will see sheep right by the side of the road and horses right by the side of the road. And these are mostly just wild. Nobody owns them necessarily. It's a really interesting thing to look at. We'll go to Caerleon, which is right next door in Newport, where there is a recently found Roman bath, and we'll explore that. There also is, in that same town, an amphitheater, a Roman amphitheater, which again, Geoffrey of Monmouth claimed was the site of the Round Table. And we can walk right through there and check that out. There's also a Roman barracks that we'll go visit, and a museum of Roman militia. Then we're off to Carmarthen. Our one stop really at a Welsh castle, and we'll get the chance to explore Carmarthen Castle. We'll go to a place in Carmarthen called Merlin's Hill Center. Some really nice shopping and beautiful, beautiful views. Back in London, we will go to Southwark Cathedral, which is right by Borough Market. And if you can find him, which you probably will because he's always out, they do have a church cat who is very, very familiar to people and really a star in his own right. There's a book that you can buy about him in the bookshop there. So England's a wonderful place. Wales is a wonderful place. We will be back in London for 1 night, and we will then get ready to come back to the States. We have a 2-week trip planned, and we certainly hope that that you will come with us. Dr. Godwin and I are very excited about this and really looking forward to it, and would love to have you come aboard. You can register for this either as Theater 395 or English 392. Again, the trip is June 4th to the 19th. The application deadline is October 31st, and the link is right there to the Study Abroad site where you can put your application in. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you can contact either myself or Dr. Godwin by email, and we'll be happy to chat with you. So hopefully we'll see you, and we'll love to be with you as we all go looking for King Arthur.